Hello and welcome to another Faith Check.
Today we're continuing our conversation on the lies about God. So some people say that God is cruel. He's looking to punish me, and so they're afraid of him. How do we deal with that?
For example, we do something, we mess up. It could be we have lied to somebody, we have stolen something, or we have done something immoral, or hurt somebody with our words. And people start feeling guilty and have this fear that God is now going to punish them for what they did. But if we understand the real truth about God, who God is, and that God is love, that God is there to redeem us, to help us, then we wouldn't be dealing with the feeling of guilt. To feel bad about what we did might be okay because it shows us that we are not all right with what we're doing and the way we're hurting ourselves or other people. But do we need to feel afraid of God punishing us? To me, it's like when you have a cough and you go to the doctor, and instead of being afraid of the symptom that you have, you're afraid of the doctor who is there to help you. If I believe that God is there to get me and to punish me, then my life is going to be based on fear and on anxiety. But if I believe that God is there to help me and He's there not to condemn me, then my view of God will be different, and that will affect the way I think, the way my brain functions. So the lie is God is there to condemn me and to punish me. But the truth is, God is there to help me and to restore me. The fact that God cares about me and that what I'm doing is hurting me and not God makes a whole difference in the way I live my life.
So is God really mad at me? Is He really there, ready to punish me? There is a good story in the Bible in John chapter 8 that deals with this lady that Jesus runs into. She's caught in an act of prostitution. And so there are all these people around her just trying to tell Jesus how bad she is. And everyone is ready to condemn her and stone her, which was kind of the custom at that time. So Jesus looks at her, and rather than condemning her the way everyone else does, He says, "Go and sin no more." In other words, go and change your life. God doesn't seem to be mad at us and ready to punish us. On the contrary, Romans 5:8 says that while we were still sinners, Jesus died for us. God reached out to us in His desire to lift us up, not to punish us.
In Psalm 147, He says that He heals the brokenhearted. He wants to bandage their wounds. So God is described throughout the whole Bible as somebody who wants to help us and restore us. And there are though passages in the Bible that present God as also somebody who is yelling after us, "Stop doing this," or I will punish you. But for me, this reminds me of how a parent, for example, might be yelling after a child who is running toward the cliff, and you're like, "Stop it, you're gonna get hurt, I'm going to spank you." But then if they really fall down the cliff, do you go down and spank them if they have hurt themselves? No, what you do is you try to help them out and try to help them feel better. So this is the way I see God in the Bible, as somebody when we fall and we mess up, He's there to help us and not condemn us.
But also there is the other side that I can think of is when a child is running towards the street and they're going to be run over cars. I don't care if they're going to think I'm mad. I'm going to scream at them. I'm going to scare them if I can to make them stop because they can get hurt.
And sometimes you might spank them a little bit before they hurt themselves, right? But if they're already hurt, are you going to afflict more punishment
in other words,
on them?
God's desire, like a parent, is not to hurt us, but to save us. A couple of very interesting passages in the Bible. The first one is Ezekiel 18:32. It says, "For I take no pleasure in the death of anyone, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent and live." God's desire is to help us change, to help us come back to Him rather than to punish us. In some ways, we can describe God as someone trying to save us from the consequences of sin rather than inflict evil.
Yeah. And another thing that I have noticed recently as I read my Bible is when the Bible talks about the wrath of God, it seems like it's not something, in many occasions, it's not something imposed from God, but it was something impressed me this past week actually, is that the wrath of God is when He removes His presence from you because you reject him and you don't want his presence. Listen what Deuteronomy 31:17 says. And in that day I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them and they will be destroyed. Many disasters and calamities will come on them, and in that day they will ask, have not the disasters come on us because our God is not with us? So many times the disasters or the punishments that come on people is because God calls after us and he wants to be with us, but then we reject him, we don't want him, and he leaves us.
He really lets us experience. He says, well, okay, you think I'm the one who is interfering with you? I'm going to pull away, and then you will see the horribleness of the consequences of the actions you're pursuing.
Yes, another interesting passage that supports that is in Romans 1, where God shows us what is good for us, that he's the only one who gives life, he's the only one who brings happiness. But then at one point he says, you know what, I'm just going to give you over to your sinful desires of your heart. And then we see the consequences of degradation. And it says, and God gave them over to a depraved mind so that they do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, depravity. They're full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They're gossipers, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. And it seems like this is the wrath of God when he let us experience all of these things, the consequence of our choices. When Jesus came to this earth and he took the sins on himself and died on the cross, God had removed himself from him. And listen in Matthew 27:46, Jesus says, God, why have you forsaken me? He's not saying, why are you killing me? So it's not God who is punishing, or God is removing himself, and that's God's wrath when he removes his presence from us.
There's stories in the Bible where we see that. One of those stories is Sodom and Gomorrah. There was a time when they became so evil, they rejected God. God said, okay, I'm going to pull away. And then the result of that was that evil became so prominent there that God said, if I don't eliminate these two cities, that evil is going to kill everyone in them. And there were a few people in the city that God valued. So he sent fire to kill that. So the instances in the Bible when God steps in and destroys evil, it is not to punish, but it is to eliminate its impact on the people around. So first God removes himself from it. Evil without God's protection spreads out and becomes so destructive that God has to
intervene at times. And there are people who have a problem with that because they're like, what kind of God is that? If you don't accept him, you are going to be killed and eliminated. But what God says in these situations is, he doesn't say, oh, because you don't believe in me, that's why I'm going to kill you. No, he says, because you have forsaken the poor, because you have oppressed the widows, because you hurt each other, because I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, and I'm going to intervene and protect the people who are suffering and put an end to that. So he is intervening because of our sake, not because we're hurting him in any way.
And there is another reason why God is intervening, again relating to it is because of our for our sake, but because God at the end wants to eliminate evil. And it's the biggest destruction is going to happen at the end of time. The reason it happens again is because God is saying, okay, I want to do away with evil once and for all. I want to destroy the people who keep influencing evil. And so the people who God will let die at that moment are those who do evil acts, but he also says that I will destroy also those who are indifferent, who do not prevent evil acts. In other words, God wants to not to bring punishment, but to protect those who want to live a good life. And he does that by letting everyone who doesn't want to be a part of that good life, the new life that he has prepared for everyone without evil, death, suffering and pain, he lets them die. It's not a punishment, it is a protective mechanism for the people.
And that's what so many people are asking for. How long is this going to continue? How long are innocent people going to suffer? How long is all of this injustice on this earth going to continue? And God says, yes, I am going to intervene.
Yeah, it's just God has this time that he's waiting for. And why? Because, again, to reveal his love, rather than being anxious to punish, he said, I do not rejoice into the death of anyone, in the New Testament, the Bible also says that Jesus is waiting so he can give as many opportunities to as many people as possible, but there is a point where he has to step in and do away with evil, sin, and its impact on humanity.
So in moments when we have messed up and we struggle with the thought that God is there to now punish us, and we need to consider those three things. That first of all, when we have a cough, when we have a symptom, we're struggling with something, God is not there to punish us for that. He is there to help us. We should not be afraid of the doctor. We should be concerned about the symptom that we have. Second of all, when we keep on rejecting Him, God might remove His presence from us and just let us go on our own understanding. And we don't want to experience God forsaking us.
And finally, there are times when God would let evil get to us. In fact, He'll be instrumental in pushing it so we experience it. And in those moments, what we need to realize is that He is doing it to help us grow, to correct our character, and to help us change our behavior and outcomes so we don't hurt other people or ourselves as well.
Yeah. And if you're still not convinced that God is not against us, but He is there for us, then please join us in our next faith check when we talk about the most amazing way in history that God has proven to us how much He cares.
And that is the story of Jesus and what Jesus did, the whole reason for the Christmas season.
Yes. And if you have any questions on what we just said, or any disagreements, or you would like more proof with either experiential or more proof from the Bible or other sources about the topics that we talk about, please comment below on our Facebook page.
Or if you just have other questions that you would like us to cover in conversations like this, please share them with us, or you can also do it on our YouTube channel.
Because we believe that what we believe matters.
So see you next time at our next faith check. Have amazing holidays.
Bye.